Brock Lesnar just suffered the most humiliating beatdown in his legendary career as Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed formed an unholy alliance to absolutely destroy the Beast Incarnate, and if you're not completely shocked by witnessing WWE's most unstoppable force reduced to a broken mess, you clearly don't understand the magnitude of what just happened. What we witnessed wasn't just an attack, it was the systematic execution of a wrestling god by two younger predators who proved that even legends can be brought down when facing superior numbers and coordination. The sight of Brock Lesnar, the man who conquered The Undertaker's streak, who dominated both WWE and UFC, who has been presented as virtually indestructible for 2 decades, being demolished by Breakker and Reed like he was just another victim will forever change how we view the Beast. This wasn't just shocking, it was reality-altering for the entire WWE power structure. The Beast has fallen. Those 4 words from the commentary team weren't just calling the action, they were announcing the end of an era where Brock Lesnar's dominance seemed eternal and unbreakable. The image of Brock lying motionless in a pool of destruction while his attackers stood over him like conquering warriors will haunt the wrestling world forever. You want to talk about moments that fundamentally reshaped WWE's hierarchy? This wasn't just 2 wrestlers getting the better of Brock in a competitive match, this was the complete annihilation of his aura of invincibility through the most one-sided assault in modern wrestling history. The psychological impact of seeing Brock so thoroughly dominated cannot be overstated. The setup for this destruction was absolutely brutal in its calculated efficiency. Brock had just finished destroying another opponent, standing tall in the ring as the Beast Incarnate, when suddenly Bron Breakker's music hit and the young powerhouse stormed to the ring with clear violent intentions. But here's where this situation went from surprising to absolutely terrifying. Just as Brock was preparing to face Breakker, Bronson Reed's music hit and the 330-pound monster appeared at the top of the ramp. The realization that Brock would be facing 2 superhuman athletes simultaneously created genuine concern for even the Beast's safety. The most shocking aspect of this attack was how completely outmatched Brock appeared once the numbers game took over. This is a man who has dominated multiple opponents simultaneously throughout his career, but the combination of Breakker's intensity and Reed's massive size created a perfect storm of destruction that even Brock couldn't overcome. Here's a question that's going to reveal just how unprecedented this moment truly was. When was the last time you saw Brock Lesnar look genuinely helpless and unable to mount any significant offense against his attackers? The actual assault was so savage and coordinated that it resembled a military operation more than a wrestling attack. Breakker would hit devastating spears and power moves to keep Brock grounded, then Reed would follow up with crushing sentences and splashes that prevented any opportunity for recovery or counterattack. The systematic nature of the destruction proved this wasn't spontaneous violence, this was a calculated assassination designed to not just defeat Brock but to completely destroy his mystique and psychological advantage over the entire roster. Every move was strategically chosen to inflict maximum physical and reputational damage, but the most devastating sequence came when Breakker hit his signature spear on Brock, driving him into the corner, and then Reed immediately followed with a running tsunami that sandwiched the Beast between 600 pounds of pure muscle and the unforgiving steel ring post. The impact was so violent that fans genuinely feared for Brock's safety. The replay footage from multiple angles is absolutely sickening to watch. You can see Brock's body compress from both directions, his ribs clearly taking catastrophic damage, his lungs violently expelling all air as the combined weight of both attackers crushed him against the steel. This wasn't wrestling, this was attempted murder. Quick question for the physics and medical experts: what kind of internal injuries would someone realistically suffer from being crushed between a spear and a 330-pound splash against a steel ring post? The most infuriating aspect of this attack is that Paul Heyman was at ringside screaming for help, but security personnel seemed to deliberately delay their response. The suspicion that WWE officials allowed this beating to continue longer than necessary adds another layer of controversy to an already explosive situation. The investigation into why security took so long to intervene reveals potential conspiracy or gross negligence. Either WWE wanted this beating to happen for storyline purposes, or their security protocols are so inadequate that they can't protect their biggest star from a coordinated assault. But perhaps the most shocking element of this destruction is what motivated Breakker and Reed to form this alliance specifically to target Brock. According to backstage sources, both men view the Beast as the ultimate obstacle preventing the next generation from taking their rightful place at the top of WWE's hierarchy. The generational warfare aspect of this attack adds significant depth to the storyline. This wasn't just about personal animosity, this was about 2 younger wrestlers making a statement that Brock's era of dominance is over and that the future belongs to them. The symbolism of destroying the old guard is unmistakable. Here's another question for the generational dynamics experts: do you think Breakker and Reed's attack represents a necessary changing of the guard, or is it disrespectful to a legend who has earned better treatment? The most disturbing detail from witness accounts is that Breakker and Reed were actually laughing while destroying Brock. The sadistic pleasure they displayed while inflicting punishment on a man who couldn't defend himself reveals a level of cruelty that goes beyond competitive intensity into genuinely psychopathic territory. The psychological profile of what drives 2 men to take such pleasure in another person's suffering is absolutely chilling. This wasn't just about winning or making a statement, they were genuinely enjoying the act of destroying someone, which suggests deeper issues with empathy and moral boundaries. But the most controversial aspect of this entire situation is how WWE is handling the aftermath. Instead of immediately suspending Breakker and Reed for what amounts to aggravated assault, they're apparently treating this as legitimate storyline development and booking them in high-profile matches. The corporate response sends a dangerous message about acceptable behavior and consequences. When a company rewards extreme violence with increased screen time and opportunities, they're essentially endorsing the behavior and encouraging others to follow the same path. The medical update on Brock's condition is absolutely concerning. Initial reports suggest multiple cracked ribs, severe soft tissue damage throughout his torso, potential spinal compression, and possible internal injuries from the repeated crushing impacts. The 46-year-old veteran's body simply couldn't withstand the punishment from two men in their physical primes. Here's a question for the age and recovery experts. At 46 years old, how much harder is it for Brock to recover from this level of trauma compared to when he was in his 20s, and could this attack potentially force his retirement? The most shocking revelation is that this attack may have been the culmination of weeks of planning between Breakker and Reed. Security footage shows them having secret meetings, studying Brock's match tape, and apparently coordinating the exact sequence of moves they would use to inflict maximum damage. The premeditation elevates this from a spontaneous attack to a calculated assault that could have serious legal implications. When you plan and coordinate violence to this degree, it crosses from entertainment into potential criminal conspiracy territory. But perhaps the most important question is whether Brock Lesnar can ever recover his aura of invincibility after being so thoroughly dominated. The psychological impact of being destroyed so completely could permanently damage his mystique and make every future opponent believe they can beat him. The testimonies from other wrestlers watching backstage reveal mixed reactions to Brock's destruction. Some expressed genuine concern for his well-being, while others admitted to feeling satisfaction at seeing someone who has dominated them for years finally getting a taste of his own medicine. The schadenfreude some wrestlers displayed reveals deep resentment toward Brock that had been building for years. His part-time schedule, his preferential treatment, and his dominance over full-time performers apparently created animosity that many are only now comfortable expressing. Here's a question about workplace dynamics. Is it wrong for wrestlers to feel satisfaction at seeing Brock get destroyed, or is it a natural human reaction to years of perceived unfair treatment and dominance? The most terrifying implication of this attack is what it means for WWE's entire roster. If Breakker and Reed can form alliances to take down legends like Brock, what's stopping other younger wrestlers from forming similar groups to systematically eliminate the established stars? We could be witnessing the beginning of generational warfare. The potential for faction-based generational conflict could reshape WWE's entire landscape. Imagine if all the younger wrestlers united against the established veterans, creating a war that forces everyone to choose sides based purely on age and tenure. The storytelling possibilities are endless but potentially chaotic, but the most disturbing development is that Breakker and Reed have apparently created a hit list of legendary wrestlers they plan to systematically destroy. Sources suggest Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Randy Orton are all targeted for similar treatment, making Brock's destruction just the opening salvo in a campaign of violence. The systematic nature of their plan suggests this isn't just about opportunity. They're conducting a purge of established stars to clear space for themselves at the top of WWE's hierarchy. The ruthlessness required for such a campaign is genuinely frightening. The fan reaction to this attack has been absolutely explosive and deeply divided. Younger fans are celebrating the rise of new stars and the destruction of Brock's dominance, while older fans are expressing outrage at the disrespect shown to a legitimate legend. The generational divide among fans mirrors the storyline perfectly. Here's a question about fan loyalty. Do you side with the younger generation of wrestlers trying to take over, or do you support the legends like Brock who built WWE into what it is today? The most important consideration is how Brock responds to this humiliation once he recovers. Will he seek revenge individually, or will he form his own alliance with other legends to combat this generational uprising? The veteran response could either escalate the conflict or find a way to bridge the generational divide. The betting odds on Brock's response are fascinating. Most analysts predict he'll go into full destroyer mode and hunt down both Breakker and Reed individually, but some believe he might shock everyone by forming a Legends faction to combat this youth movement systematically. But perhaps the most tragic aspect of this situation is how it accelerates Brock's inevitable decline. At 46, facing coordinated attacks from younger, hungrier competitors, Brock's days at the top of WWE are clearly numbered. This attack might be remembered as the beginning of the end for the Beast Incarnate's legendary career. The comparison to other legendary wrestlers who faced similar generational challenges is inevitable. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, The Undertaker all eventually faced younger wrestlers who proved the old guard couldn't maintain dominance forever. Brock is now experiencing that inevitable transition. Here's a philosophical question for the long-term fans. Is it better for legends to retire at their peak, or to continue working until younger stars definitively prove they're superior, even if it means suffering defeats like Brock just experienced? The investigation into whether WWE management sanctioned this attack continues, but evidence suggests this may have been more than just storyline development. The timing, the brutality, and the apparent coordination with production suggest that higher UPS may have approved or even orchestrated this generational statement. The most controversial theory is that WWE management wanted Brock's aura destroyed to make room for new main event stars without having to negotiate his contract renewal. If true, the corporate betrayal would be almost as shocking as the physical attack itself. The coming weeks will reveal whether this was an isolated incident or the beginning of a sustained campaign by younger wrestlers to forcibly retire the old guard. Either way, the night Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed destroyed Brock Lesnar will be remembered as a turning point in WWE history. The Beast has fallen, and the wrestling world will never be the same. Two younger predators have proven that even legends can be brought down, and every established star in WWE should be terrified that they might be next on the hit list.